is your host, Benjamin Saxton, and welcome to a Fighter's Chance podcast, where we give people in the combat sports world an opportunity to talk about the things worth fighting for. Today's guest is a professional mixed martial artist fighting out of Oklahoma with a record of 14-5 with 12 submissions and an impressive 86% finish rate. LFA flyweight champion, Jimmy the Brick Flick. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, this is exciting. You just won the championship not too long ago. How's it feel? It looks good on you.
Hey, thank you, man. It feels amazing, man. There's nothing like bringing home a world title.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting, and it's relatively new. Has it I don't know, died down the shock or the excitement of winning the belt yet? Because it's been a couple weeks, maybe a month now.
Yeah, we're about I think a little over 2 weeks out, maybe 3 weeks since I won the title. But we got the call up to step in on the Tuesday night contender. So I don't think it all got to sink in all the way. But either way, we got to keep this thing forever. So that'll be all right.
Yeah, that's great. Well, hey, today I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of just briefly a little bit of you getting started, your training, like who got you exposed to martial arts, and then transition that to your professional side. But I want to just kick off on how you really started in mixed martial arts, and we can kind of just go from there.
Well, actually, growing up, I was a wrestler here in Sand Springs, Oklahoma. My dad got me into wrestling at a really young age. I wrestled my whole life. When I got into high school, I kind of started being stupid, not committing to school, being real late, back-mouthing teachers. Ended up getting kicked out of school at 17. My dad moved me down to Corpus Christi, Texas, and told me he was putting me in a gym. I joined down at Full Contact Fight Academy with Hector Munoz, and that's when my mixed martial arts career started. And by the time I was 19 years old, I started fighting as an amateur.
That's pretty cool. And then transitioning from wrestling to mixed martial arts, what would you say the first martial arts, I don't know, whether it's jiu-jitsu, boxing, where did your striking kind of come into it? Because the wrestling's the grappling side, but where and when did you pick up the striking?
Honestly, that's what took me the longest. When I got into striking, my coach used to tell me that I struck like I was playing the Wii game. If you ever played the Wii boxing game, you used to bob back and forth with your hands up like this. And that's kind of how my striking started. I fell in love with the ground. Like I said, I wrestled my whole life. I feel like I'm one of the very few wrestlers that are very confident off their back.
Okay.
That's why so many submissions in jiu-jitsu. I fell into it. So, but striking took me a lot longer to develop. If you look at my loss record, most of my losses are by knockout. But here recently, over the past year, I hired Leo from Forza Combat Sports out here in Broken Arrow. And since I brought him on, I've won a kickboxing fight against Matt Murphy, which has over 50, 60 fights from boxing to pro. He even did bare knuckle and went to a decision with Johnny Bedford in bare knuckle, where a lot of people thought he won. I dominated him in a 3-round kickboxing fight that's live on UFC Fight Pass. And I've had 2 MMA fights since. My striking has evolved a lot, but I still haven't had to show it. But I promise everybody I got it. That's why I got the nickname The Brick, is because my game's solid all over.
Is that how the nickname? Who named you The Brick? How did you get that nickname?
We were just kind of going across nicknames, and of people that knew me inside the gym, they know I got pretty good stand-up, I got good wrestling, and I got good jiu-jitsu. And it just flowed with the name, Jimmy the Brick Flick. And it just kind of fell all together that now my game's solid all over like a brick.
That's awesome. And I mean, you've had, I think you're only 29, you turned 30 this year. You've had, give or take, like 19, 20 fights professionally in mixed martial arts. And I mean, you've had a great career, already, with your finishes, your wins, getting that LFA championship. You mentioned the Contender Series. What's next for you? what do you plan on going that route? Are you going to defend the belt? What's on your radar?
Oh no, we're signed. We're signed to fight September 1st. We are fighting undefeated 6-0 Nate Smith on the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series.
That's fantastic. That's exciting. That's just the next evolution to your career and your resume. You've had impressive victories. You've kind of progressed as your career has gone on. You've shown to be able to take on additional competition. And I mean, honestly, that LFA championship that you just won against Greg Fisher, that was a big fight for you, and you did it pretty impressively in the first round. Just an arm triangle, didn't even make it a minute. That was a hell of a showing on your behalf.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've been in the sport for a long time. As a professional, I have fights at 145, 135, and 125. I'm more dominant at 125, but as you can see, it's been harder for us 125ers to stay active. The UFC finally has solidified the 125-pound division again, and I don't plan on moving up in weight unless it was for the UFC on short notice. I got pro Muay Thai fights. I got pro kickboxing fights. I even got pro boxing fights people don't know about. I even fought Chris Gutierrez in MMA. I fought Chris Gutierrez in pro Muay Thai. I've been in the sport for a long time. And if you look up my opponent's combined record as a professional, it's 140 wins and 69 losses. So
that's impressive.
Thank you. I really haven't picked my fights. I've had a couple short notice people step in because some people backed out and they might not have had the best record, but that was out of my control. But if you add up the opponents' combined record, my last 11 opponents have a winning record and still currently have a winning record.
Yeah, that's interesting you brought that up, of like versing somebody that's on short notice, whether you're taking a fight on short notice or you're expecting to fight somebody and your opponent switches. Some may say that could be an advantage to you because you've been going through a camp and you're conditioned for it where that other person might not be. But I think you're kind of taking a risk there too, because you're probably training for maybe a particular style or person, and then all of a sudden that switches. How do you go about making sure you don't maybe go in there with the same game plan as what you were, or not trying to overdo it? But how do you tackle that when that situation arises?
Man, I've been in both situations where I've even took the fight on short notice. I fought C.J. Hamilton on 2 weeks' notice, and C.J. Hamilton was supposed to be fighting Jonathan Martinez, and Jonathan Martinez got called up to the UFC, so they called me to step in on 2 weeks' notice. So that was a tough fight right there. He's like an NCAA national champ. He's currently ranked #1 in the state of Texas. He's also ranked nationally. So it was dangerous for me. Most of the time when you step in on short notice, you don't have nothing to lose, especially a guy with a losing record. So
Right.
When I've had guys with the losing record step in on short notice, it's a lot harder for me. But I always go into the fight with the same mindset, and that's either kill or be killed. And that's what I like to go into every fight with, that mindset. I do not like to go to the scorecards. As you can see, I only have 3 fights that went to the scorecards, and 2 of those was to the same guy that I beat twice.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of experience. This is my 4th pro title. I have the 125 IXFA 125 title. I had the XFN 135 title, the freestyle cage fighting 125 title, and now I just currently won the LFA 125 title. So
that's impressive.
Thank you. Yes, it's been a long journey. I've been a professional for 10 years now. So for over a decade, I've been fighting pro, and September 1st, we're a little under 3 weeks out now. I got my opportunity to fight in front of Dana White, and that's a dream come true. And it's my chance to earn that UFC contract that I've been chasing all this time.
That's really exciting, and I'm happy for you and excited to see how your career unfolds, because you have so much in front of you, and you've talked about the level of competition and the accolades that you've achieved in the different divisions and leagues, or organizations, I should say. Do you think that has helped you? Because I talked to a lot of different fighters, whether it's mixed martial arts, kickboxing, boxing, and there's a lot of different opinions or strategies, whether they pick their fights or they don't care who they fight, they just want the next toughest opponent. But since you fought and you've progressed and been able to achieve those accolades as your career has evolved, would you say that that's helped you and really gotten you prepared to the biggest stage of where you're now going on September 1st?
Oh yes, most definitely. I've had fallbacks that I've came back from. I've stepped up on short notice to fight a pro boxer that had over 200 amateur fights, traveled with the USA team, and I went to a decision and never even got dropped. I've fought undefeated boxers and lost by decision. I fought world-class kickboxer, Muay Thai fighters, and I've lost all those by decisions. So over this time, with all that coming together, from my MMA to my kickboxing to my boxing, and I've even competed in jiu-jitsu as a professional jiu-jitsu guy. So I feel I've done almost everything except karate. So I think it's helped me adapt to this situation, and I feel that I'm more ready than most fighters based on the aspect of how many opponents I've fought, how many sports I've fought in, and the record and the experience of fighters I fought. I'm getting ready to fight 6-0 Nate Smith, and I don't think he's done as much as me in mixed martial arts. He has been in wrestling for a really long time, and he did have over 20, maybe 30 amateur fights. So he's got a lot of experience as an amateur, but not as a professional. So I'm pretty excited for this fight. I feel like I match up really well with him, and my confidence are through the roof, especially coming off this title fight with Greg Fisher. I was an underdog. Greg Fisher was 10-1, never been finished, and his last 4 opponents were top-notch opponents at 135. So for me to go in there and finish him at 125 and make the statement I did, I feel more confident going into this fight September 1st.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you've had all of that experience, not just in mixed martial arts, but whether it's Muay Thai or boxing, wrestling, because I think that just ultimately makes you more well-rounded. And as you go through your career and you have fights against different people that have different skill sets. I mean, I think you're more prepared. It's not just sparring or training. You've actually had live fights. You've actually, had live competition where I think there's something to be said about that versus just sparring or preparing for a boxer or a Muay Thai guy versus you actually being in there and doing it.
Yes, I agree. Like I said, I've experienced it all. And not only that, this would be my second fight with no fans. This will be his first fight with no fans.
How
So
is
I've
that?
experienced that. It was great for me. Like I said, I went into that fight with nothing but confidence. I sacrificed so much for this fight, from missing my wife's birthday, from missing stuff with my kids. My little girl starts school the week that I will be heading out to Vegas for the Tuesday night contenders. So I sacrifice a lot to chase my career, but I take care of my family. I take care of my loved ones, and I take care of what I got to do. I work a full-time job still to take care of my family as well. So I go through a lot to sacrifice. Once I won this LFA title, I could have gave it up. Man, I could have gave it up when I beat Johnny Bedford. I could have retired at any time. I have a 401k. I have benefits. I have a really good job, and I own my own house. I own my own land. I'm pretty successful at 29 years old, and I couldn't be any happier to have all the support that I have, especially from my wife, allowing me to still chase my dream, even though I really don't have to.
That's pretty cool, and that's great to have such a great partner to be in there, along for the ride and to help you achieve your dreams. I always find it interesting when I talk to fighters that you obviously are training full time, but you also have that full time job. So you essentially have 2 full-time jobs that you're working towards, because you can't half-ass it, you can't half-train to get to the level that you're at. Do you think that if you win the Dana White contender, you get your contract from the fight, do you then will transition from stop working your other job to then full-time as a fighter?
Not right off the bat, I don't. It's going to take a little time. I need to at least get 1 or 2 wins in the UFC. Once I win the contract and get to the UFC, I need to establish myself in the UFC in the flyweight division. I need to make a statement on the Tuesday Night Contender Series, and then I want to make a statement in my first fight in the UFC. Open up bigger opportunities, open up the opportunity to make more money when we renegotiate the contract. So there's a lot to it. The UFC does not offer 401k. It does not offer benefits.
Right.
I have a wife and I have 2 beautiful girls, so I also have to think about them at the same time. The UFC is not guaranteed long road.
Right.
Got to be smart in the decisions we make. But I've been doing this for a long time, and my job really works with me. So I know as I progress, my job will let me cut my hours back slowly. But it's going to take me a lot to have to give up my job.
Okay. Well, hey, I don't want to move on without you mentioned fighting without fans, and I have a couple questions I want to talk to you about that, because this is such an interesting time that we live in, and you've had a really big fight without fans, right? You know, a title fight, that's a big deal, big organization, and then you'll be in the Dana White series. That's a big that's a big fight too. I've heard interviews and I've heard articles talking about fighting without fans there, and just you can see it. You don't need to know anything about the sport, but you can hear the strikes landing, the kicks, the punches, and it's silent, right? All you really hear is the fighters in there, the referee in the corners, right? And so and you may have not even given this any thought whatsoever, but I'm just curious. So I've heard some people talk about trying to find an edge where if they have very good corner people, they can try to not manipulate, but help with the scoring of judges, because you can hear a punch land, you can hear a kick land, and that's one of your senses. The judges can see it, then they can also hear it, and really, if the corners are the only ones in there, really cheering or yelling for the fighters, do you think that could impact a judge's decision with no fans being there?
Yes, I think it can make a big impact. But when I go into a fight, I go into the fight not to go to the scorecards.
Absolutely.
I go into the fight to get the finish. I have a fight on a loss on my record where I feel I dominated the hometown boy, took him down, had his back in every round. I got beat up a little bit on the feet, but I did dominate the position, the ring, the cage control, and everything, and I still lost by unanimous decision. So there's so many aspects going into it, but it makes a big difference being able to hear his corner, being able to hear my corner. But I've been wrestling since I was a kid. We've been in the wrestling room in the gauntlet, with just the coaches and a couple of our wrestling teammates trying to get that number 1 spot. So I've been on this grind for a real long time. I've got a lot of experience, and I feel no matter what, if there's 100,000 fans or if there's only 20 fans, I'm going in there with one mindset, and that's to get my job done and get my hand raised.
Is it I can appreciate having that goal of getting a finish and not going to the judges, because you would agree with me that if it goes to the judges, anything can happen. They can score it completely different. I mean, anybody that's watched MMA, it doesn't matter the organization or promotion, that you end up watching the fight, it goes to the judge's decision. You're like, wait, what fight were they? What were they watching? But you've proven to have 12 out of your 14 victories be a finish, and you left it out of the judge's decision. So that's the best way to do it.
Yes, and that's the way I want to plan on doing it, especially in front of Dana White himself. I mean, we seen last night that he awarded 5 contracts, man. 5 contracts, and we've only seen that once before in all the seasons of the Tuesday Night Contenders. And he states that he wants a finish, or he wants you going forward trying to finish. My past 2 fights have been 5 5-minute rounds, or scheduled for 5 5-minute rounds. So I feel my cardio is top notch. We're ready to go, and I want to push the pace as much as I can to go in there and get this finish. And if I'm not able to get the finish, I want to go balls to the wall for 15 minutes to see Dana get up on his feet, to know that I'm trying to finish this fight regardless, that there's no quit in me. There's no quit at all. There's nothing but heart and hard work coming from me.
No, that's awesome. And those that, those that did see your fight, your last one, or didn't see your last two, I mean, if you take the full fight time of your last two fights, it didn't even make it a full 5-minute round. So, I mean, you have definitely been able to finish some of your opponents quickly, too, in the first round or early on in fights. So, generally a very exciting person to watch fight, and you're usually one of the more entertaining ones on a card. So that will definitely be something to tune in and watch your fight, and hopefully watch your dreams come true.
Yes, sir, most definitely. And if you look at my last 4 wins, I have a win in the 3rd round versus Johnny Bedford. I have a win in the 2nd round versus CJ Hamilton, and I have back-to-back first-round finishes. So I can finish in every round. Early in my career, I also went 5 rounds to a decision with Humberto De Leon. So I've been 5 rounds, and I finished in the 1st, I finished in the 2nd, and I finished in the 3rd. So I know what I got to do. I know how to push, and I know how to keep that grind going to get the finish. And especially that Bedford fight, it was a real close fight, and we wouldn't have known what would have happened on the scorecards, but we didn't have to find out, and I'm happy about that.
Absolutely. How what do you normally want for we've talked earlier on, we talked about it, taking a short notice fight. What's a normal training camp for you when you're preparing to take a fight? What's the normal amount of time that you generally like to get you fully prepared?
6 to 8 weeks is a great training time. It gives me enough time to get in shape, to, truly think about everything that I need to do, what I want to do. But when you also have that long, we usually lose an opponent. Somebody gets hurt in that process. Then you have somebody step in. So right now, I think originally about 4 to 5 weeks, and that's what I have right now. I got the call for Nate Smith at 4 weeks out exactly. And Nate Smith has been on the grind for a while. Shortly after his last fight in February, I'm pretty sure he was signed to the Tuesday Night Contender. He fought like February 20th and for LFA as well. And shortly after that, the pandemic hit. Then they were going to schedule the Tuesday Night Contender for early August, and then it got moved back a little longer. And now here we are, and he's scheduled for September 1st. And he was supposed to fight JB Bice, and they were scheduled in August, and then they were scheduled for September 1st. And now he's fighting me September 1st. So I've already had 2 fights this year. This would be my 3rd fight this year, and we're having a quick turnaround. We knew after we won the title, too, to stay active, to stay in the gym, because when you win the LFA title, the call's coming.
Right. Yeah, you put yourself in a great position. You've been active. How much would you contribute ring rust to fighters that have had long layoffs? I want to get your perspective on that from someone that's maybe had a year or a year plus. Is that really, can you say that's a really true thing for most fighters that have been out of the ring for that long, whether they are training or sparring outside the octagon, but when they come in, is that a legitimate thing in your eyes?
Honestly, no, I don't believe in it, because I've been out for a year and a half, and I've came back and I dominated. I've also been out for a short period of time and got back in there and still got beat. I think it comes down to your training camp, your mindset, and your work ethic. I've had fight camps where they're not the best fight camps, but I still fought because I'm a fighter, and that's what we do. So some fighters like to complain and pull out of the fights, or some fighters will fight, lose, and complain about why they lose. If you go back and look at my losses, I don't complain about why I lost. I don't complain about my training camps. I know personally what went wrong. And now being 10 years into this sport, I know what I have to do. And if I wake up every morning and I get all my work in, I get all my training in, when I make that walk, I'm 100% confident. I know I did everything in my power to get that win. And I feel like if you are confident enough and you know that you did everything in your power, there's not going to be no ring rust.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. Hugh, normally I like to ask people around this time, kind of how they've been handling their layoffs because of COVID affecting fighting. But you are one of the very few that can say in 2020 that you had 2 fights, let alone about to have 3 fights. So that's pretty cool and exciting. I think that's got to be a pretty big advantage to you, especially in these days where people's training has been maybe affected, where they haven't been able to do everything that they've typically have done, whether it's been shut down or they've had to change their plan. And you've been pretty much active since, your fight on February 29th. You had a fight, then you had another one in July. Now you're going to have another one in September. How does your body feel from really not having a whole lot of downtime? You're having 3 fights in, 6 months?
Yeah. Well, after the February 29th fight, we are already in a verbal agreement to fight for the LFA title April 17th as well. And I was going to take on Sydney Bice up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, before the pandemic hit. I did take a few weeks off after the pandemic hit because I work in the plastic industry, and we've been very, very busy with plastic being high demand. So we took a little time off with the gyms closing, but I knew that I wanted to stay active. I've been getting a lot of road work in. I also have a gym out here where I live. So I brought a few people out to stay training, make sure my weight didn't get too high. And then I found out that LFA was coming back, and then the UFC came back before that.
Right.
And I know I have a big win streak going, but I wanted to stay active on social media, stay active training, just in case I had an opportunity to get that call for the UFC. But I got the call for the LFA title July 24th, and I got that about 5-6 weeks out. So that was amazing. We're able to stay active, keep the weight down, keep the cardio going, and get that win July 24th. And then shortly after, we got the call for September 1st for the Tuesday night contender. And we go and win this September 1st. We're going to have to stay in the gym and stay ready again because things just keep happening. People keep falling out and fighters keep stepping in. And we had a guy last night that got the contract based on the fact that he told Dana he would fight August 22nd. And this guy's stepping up and fighting August 22nd when he just fought last night. So that's like within like 12 days after winning a UFC contract, he's going to fight in the UFC. And I wouldn't mind following that guy as well. There's a lot of flyweight fights booked right now. We even got Cody Garbrandt coming down to 125, which I love the fact that he's coming down because I feel like it's going to give us 125ers a bigger name. I don't think he's going to win the title, but I think it will bring more fans to the flyweight division just based on the fact that Cody Garbrandt has such a big following.
Oh, absolutely. He's a huge name, and just coming into that division just draws people and gives everybody an opportunity to get more exposure. So that's great.
Yes, so I think it was a smart decision by the UFC, and I think it's a smart decision for the flyweight division, and I'm excited for it.
Well, you have so much going on in your life. You've won the title. You fought twice already. You're going to fight 3 times. Hell, the rate you're at right now, you might fight 4 times before 2020's up. You got a lot going on, work, fighting. I also know, I think we talked that you do some work with autism. Maybe you can talk a little bit about your organization and the type of work that you do with autism.
I have a buddy named Jeremy White. His boy's autistic. I got back into fighting after a 1.5-year layoff, and it was hard to find sponsors. Jeremy White said he would want to sponsor me, and he wanted me to support Fighting for Autism. So we jumped on board. We started supporting Fighting for Autism. I donated, almost $1,000 towards Fighting for Autism from shirt sales and fight money to give back to Fighting for Autism. I'm official ambassador for Fighting for Autism, and this all came from my buddy Jeremy White. I appreciate him for all the support, and it really motivates me. I have a lot of people hit me up just based on the fact that they see me supporting Fighting for Autism. So these kids are fighting constantly, and I don't go nearly through the fight that they do every day just to get through normal life. We have a big problem with bullying and stuff like that in the world. Now we got the pandemic going on. So there's a lot going on in this world. And to be able to support Fighting for Autism is just awesome. I do as much as I can for them, and I can't thank them enough for the support.
Well, we'll definitely put the link in the description. We'll put all of your social media in the description so they can check it out, and whatever else you want me to include, I'm happy to do so. So they'll have all of that. Jimmy, thank you so much for taking the time and having this conversation with me. I appreciate it. I hope you have nothing but the best success and best luck in your upcoming fight. I hope you have another quick turnaround victory and you're able to just say, Dana White, here you go. Here's my contract. Let's get you for August, later on, or whatever the case may be. But I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time.
Hey, man, thank you. I appreciate it. And if anybody would like to follow me, please follow my fan page, Jimmy the Brick Flick. You can also type in www.thebrickmma.com, and it'll take you right to my fan page. My personal Facebook is at 5,000, so I can't no friend request. And I'm also on Instagram at _brick_MMA. And then Twitter at Jimmy Flick. So I made the Twitter easy for people to find me. I'm very active on all social media accounts. I appreciate all the support. And I personally message everybody back myself. Nobody runs any of my social medias except me. I love the support. And like I say, if anybody ever sees me out eating at Walmart or anywhere locally, I love the support. I love taking pictures. And I'm always welcome to everybody to come up and talk to me.